What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Wimpy Studio. Today, I'm here to give my official review of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Book 19, Hot Mess. I'm super excited to talk about this. As many of you know, I do love the Diary of a Wimpy Kid book series. It's been in my heart for a long time. I think I got the first book, I want to say 2014. It was like right around the time The Long Call came out, and then I just kept buying each book, and then I Old School was the first book I got when it came out. It's crazy that book 20 is going to be coming out next year, except I'm going to be getting it delivered to my college dorm room, and that's crazy. It's kind of fitting that something big like that is happening when book 20 comes out. So, this almost feels like, okay, it's like the last book until I go into college, and that's crazy. I've grown up with these books basically the past 9 books or whatever, 9 years. Um, but yeah, let's just jump right in. So the back cover says the pressure is building for Greg Heffley, who discovers that when you mix heaps of family at a tiny beach house in sweltering heat, it's a recipe for disaster. Speaking of recipes, the secret ingredients behind Grandma's famous meatballs have been closely guarded for years. Can Greg unpack all of his family's mysteries before their vacation is over, or will he just stir the pot? First of all, I love this cover. Like when I first saw it, I thought it was a bit too intense, but to me, I really like it. The only thing I don't like this light blue hot mess. It just doesn't really fit the vibe. I get he's going for like an Italian vibe, but I would have liked if it was like in spaghetti yellow, especially to match the spaghetti around the edges. I do like the touches of like the spaghetti sauce on it too. It's like a messy picnic blanket, which describes a scene in the book. That's the only thing I would change. But the texture is really cool. I love the design. It I think just looking at it, it looks really cool. Diving into it though, I'm not gonna talk about every single thing that happened in it, but I'm just gonna say this was a really, really great book. I would say it's in my top half. Like, we have 19 books. I would say this is in my top 10 for sure. Um, and I do think part of it is because I have struggled with the past few Die from a Kid books, so I think this kind of gave it the upper hand, even though I think it was a lot better, and a lot better than even some of the ones from the first 10 books, in my opinion. I think this beat, like, the third wheel, for instance, and yeah, in the long call. I think this was better than the long call personally. I think it was actually more realistic overall. Because that was one thing too, is that the getaway and the deep end, even the long haul to a degree, he made the road trip book so unrealistic that they just weren't engaging anymore. So I was kind of worried for this book. There was really only a couple things that to me seemed super unrealistic. I was kind of hoping let's avoid all the gray going into the ocean and all of that because we already got that several times, but there's only one scene like that, thankfully. To me, it was just family drama, and it was almost like a sitcom at times, just the way things were playing out. There were several things I liked about the family dynamics together. It reminded me of Hard Luck, and I loved Hard Luck. It's might be in my top 5 favorites. It's such a great book. So to me, this was Hard Luck 2.0 because they had a family secret in there. Now they have the family secret back in Hot Mess, but they add different elements to it. Um, I mean, if you had to compare this, I would say this is a mixture of Hard Luck slash The Long Haul, kind of put together. But I think maybe not. This isn't as good as Hard Luck, but I think it's better than The Long Haul. It's another vacation story, but the vacation really doesn't over dominate things. Like, I mean, sure, it's a little bit boring at times and whatever. Like, but they tone it down a lot. Like the crazy over the top stuff. It's very minimal in this book, and that's what I love about it. It's so much more down to earth, and it's just the family arguing with each other and Greg watching from the sidelines, and just he most of the time I'm like, ugh, the fantasies. They get so ridiculous and there's so many of them. And there were a lot in this book, but to me, I didn't even mind it because it made more sense why he was daydreaming. Like, he was annoyed that his family was arguing, so he had these other thoughts. It made sense to me. I liked how Rowley had a decent amount of plot, or not plot, but he was in it a decent amount, surprisingly, considering he wasn't didn't have a big role in it, but he was in it a decent amount. Roderick wasn't in it a whole lot, but one thing I did like was the callback to the long haul. You know, when he had the pizza in the microwave then and locked it in there, and then the pizza in the oven. In this book, I like that callback. Um, I liked how the parents got more of a role too, and usually the parents are just okay to me, but I personally like them in this book. I mean, Susan was being kind of a Karen, to say the least. But I kind of felt bad for Frank at times. I don't know. I like seeing more spotlight on the parents and getting to know them a little bit more. I still think Susan's kind of an odd mom personally, but it's cool to see more of them. Um, and yeah, I would say some of the highlights for me though, seeing all the family back together, but also kind of getting some mystery slash drama thrown in there too. You know, one being with the meatballs. They set up this great plot with the grandma saying, "You guys go to this Running Neck Island, the place I took you guys when you were kids." They all get there. There's drama. It's a really entertaining stuff too. Like just seeing all the sisters fight, and the one thing that was kind of a bit much, and I mean, they had the pig in the long haul. So in this one, they had a dog named Dazzle. Um, Now, I would say this in some ways was more realistic than the pig. I think I actually enjoyed it more than the whole pig thing. I mean, the only thing really was the fact that she thought she was a human was a bit much. But no, it was just funny. Like that was the comic relief, the fact that the whole dog thing. It was kind of like a side plot, but I think it provided some good laughs. Like every time they showed the dog, I chuckled. So they were successful with that. Um, and the mystery with the meatballs was actually somewhat interesting. I was not expecting it to go the way that it did. I do kind of wish they kind of maybe spread the mystery out a little bit more throughout the book, instead of kind of cramming it all at the end. But that's been a recent issue. It's not the end of the world. I especially love the ending where Greg finds out that Grandma actually bought the meatballs from the restaurant and tried to claim them as her own, which I think is kind of stupid of her to do. Like, because she's not trying to profit off of them. She's just wants them to be her own and for her daughters to think they're hers, I guess. Like, I don't know. That didn't make much sense to me. But I liked the ending where Greg decides, okay, now that I know the secret, I can take over the family. That's just classic Greg. That was hilarious to me. The other thing that I liked, and I'm a sucker for just stupid drama, especially if it's relationship drama, was this whole plot between Aunt Keiki and Susan, where Keiki hasn't forgiven her for Susan for stealing her boyfriend all these like 30 some years ago, and we find out that it was actually the dad that she stole. Like I was not actually expecting that but they kind of kept bringing it up, and the fact that they circled back around to it was really funny. I also love seeing Uncle Gary again. I mean, he's always a fun character. The fact that his whole thing of getting there and auditioning to be a pirate and it not working out was just classic. He has such a bad luck streak. I'm telling you, he's just like Greg. They both, the both of them. But I do think, and they didn't put it on this back description, but to me, when it said the two sides of the family come together, I thought we would see like some of Greg's family from The Ugly Truth combined with some of his family from Hard Luck, but they really only had Uncle Gary from Frank's side. So that was kind of a bit of a misdirect, but that's minor to me. I mean, it was definitely actually unexpected for Uncle Gary just to show up out of nowhere, but that's pretty typical for him. Like it's his appearances are so random, you just never know when he's going to show up, and that's what makes it fun. Um, but I like the overall plot of the book. It was funny. It was entertaining. It felt fresh. Um, it was realistic to a degree. I mean, sure, there was still some questionable stuff like with the dog and even some smaller stuff, but to me, nothing super outrageous. It was just like a simpler vibe. A big improvement over a lot of these more recent books. I mean, I would say it's been my favorite since the Meltdown. I mean, I like the Meltdown a lot. Um, and yeah, so I would say since Old School, I liked Old School a lot, and then the Meltdown, and then Hot Mess. Like I would say, and like and it's definitely in my top 10 for sure. There's no doubt about that. It's probably towards the lower of my top 10, but that's just to be expected. I don't see a book reaching a top spot anytime soon. I just don't think you can outdo those OGs. Um, But I liked how they made Greg pretty likable in the book too. Like they didn't make him like really nothing. He didn't do anything wrong throughout the book. Like he was just living life, and he wasn't being like a narcissist or a jerk like he sometimes is. I mean, granted, Raleigh wasn't really in it, so he didn't have someone to be a jerk to. Um, but I like seeing just him kind of like narrate it, but not like a diaper overload where he just talked about the band. He kind of went back to a narration, mostly talking about his family, but he was still involved too. As far as what I want book 20 to be, I think I'm ready for him to go to high school. I think that's been a bit it's been a bit funny, the fact that he's never gone to high school. I think book 20 would be a great time for him to go to high school. Just me. I don't know, unless he decides to wrap it up with like his like last time in middle school or something, and then it ends. We'll see. I think that he should do high school though. I mean, to me, I don't think he's ending it at book 20. I think he's gonna milk this series for as long as he can because it's money, and what else is he gonna do? I don't know what else he's gonna do. So I think he's gonna just keep going writing these books. And I think high school's the best direction he can take it. To me, this almost felt like one last summer banger before we get into high school. And I've thought that. That's what I thought the long haul was going to be. And then old school would be high school. Oh boy, I was wrong about that. And I thought that, oh, maybe the getaway will be the last one. Or not the getaway, the deep end. And no, he's still in middle school. But I like that it was fresh. It was, we didn't need another vacation book, but this one to me was different enough from the others, and it was more entertaining. It actually weaved a pretty good plot throughout, and I like the plot twist at the end. We don't usually get a plot twist. I mean, the old school, we had a plot twist in at the end, and that's why it was one of my favorite books. I like books like that have like a, oh, not expecting that, which I think Hot Mess did, and I actually had a few with them, so I personally like that. Um, but yeah, I also like. I mean, I wish they did more with the whole Greg starting his channel. That was kind of fun, seeing that, and I like how they brought in like the entertainment setting a bit too. I mean, we see Greg talking a lot about wanting to be famous and everything, but I like seeing like kind of like the social media side of things brought in a little bit. I think we'll see more of that, especially if he gets into high school. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts to do like a channel or something. I don't know. I think this was kind of like a setup. At least I hope so. At least to me, like it was nice to see Greg's family again, but I think we need to move on to high school. Like I think that's just my overall opinion. Comment down below if you feel different. I'm gonna go ahead and end this here, but let me know what you thought of Hot Mess. I thought it was a great book. It was, to me, I almost thought this was gonna suck. Like when I first saw it, and the vague description was like, "Oh no, another vacation book? Like this is the last thing we need." Um, but I'm happy with how the book turned out. And it was not a hot mess. It really wasn't. It was a good book. So go check it out if you haven't already. But anyways, yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Comment down below what you thought of the book. I'll see you guys soon. Bye everyone. Peace out.